defenders in Illinois could get some relief from their jam-packed workloads, but not for at least another year. WIFR reporter Sydney Stoffregan explains the Funded Advocacy and Independent Representation, or FAIR Act, and why public defenders believe it will make sure everyone gets equal and solid representation.
The FAIR Act is considered the first major reform to the state's public defense system since 1949, 14 years before all Americans were given the right to court-appointed counsel.
It increases the confidence that people will have in the justice system.
The Funded Advocacy and Independent Representation, or FAIR Act, creates a separate public defense system in Illinois. Basically, judges no longer select public defenders. A commission will do that starting in July 2026.
Able to do what our code of ethics as attorneys tells us to do, and that is provide the best, the most vigorous representation that we can provide.
Former Assistant Public Defender K. Edward Copeland says the new commission will make our courts more equitable.
I think it's good for the judges as well, just to have that sort of separation so that even the appearance of bias or pressure is now removed.
Experts say public defenders are swamped with workloads that typically would be handled by several full-time lawyers. Add in other administrative duties and you have a perfect storm.
When you have to work on one case, put other cases on the back burner for the time being, it creates a lot of stress because those people, even if their cases are not as high a priority to them, that's their priority.
Winnebago County Attorney Nick Zimmerman says an appointed state public defender will also let circuit courts know when more help is needed.
The system is supposed to supplement what is already in place. So it may be that they end up having state public defenders who take certain types of cases from us.
Recent research claims the Prairie State needs at least 2,000 public defenders to meet demand and falls short by several hundred.
Thank you, Sydney. And once Governor J.B. Pritzker signs the bill into law, the Office of the State Public Defender is expected to be fully operational January 1st of 2027.